Hello, Illuminators. This is Jennifer Engel, CEO and founder of Inspire and Illuminate. The reason why I'm doing a video introduction today is because I realized that my blog has the topic that I'm going to be posting today has a sensitive issue attached to it, and it became even more pronounced to me this weekend. Since it is a sensitive issue, I have actually written down everything I want to say, so I might be reading a little bit more than I would be looking at the camera talking to you one-on-one. I think sometimes it's really good to kind of just sit down and have a casual conversation like I'm talking to a friend. But I think that there's also some other times when our words really need to be chosen very carefully and very specifically. And I believe that this is one of those times. So Spirit has an interesting way of communicating with people. And sometimes those communications are well thought out and they're planned. And other times those communications are impromptu. And a lot of times they're impromptu when something in the community has occurred. So today my conversation is impromptu. I didn't necessarily plan on having it, but I think it is needed. Sometimes in our lives events come up and they need to be discussed. They need to be brought out in the open, but they need to be handled with delicacy. One thing I really want my readers to know is that I often have a lot of material written beforehand. More often than not, I will sit down and I will write, and I will have material to post a week or 2 weeks ahead of time. And so I had written today's post along with other information that's going to come after this post Friday morning of last week, and I just wanted my Unitarian Universalist Church of Elgin community to know that this post was not inspired by the news that I discovered on Saturday. So in addition to posting my words, I would like to read them now. And then I'm going to have a little conversation about my words after. And in addition, I will put the post in words on my WordPress site as well as some possible resources. So this is what I was going to post today without any preface, without any video beforehand. So, in case you're wondering, I'm writing a book called You Don't Have to Die, a cancer survivor's guide on how to live the life of your desires. Last week I posted chapter 1, which was basically 4 diary entries that I had taken from the time I realized I was diagnosed with cancer. Now I'm moving into the other part of my book, chapter 2, called Stop, and this is where the guide actually begins. It was based on some posts, some blogs that I did this past spring, and so that's where the idea for the book came from. So a lot of the mnemonic devices and the guide will be in the form of words that might come to mind when you hear road construction. So this week's topic is stop. So here it is, chapter 2, Stop. Thoughts from Marie Williamson in her book, A Return to Love, a reflection on A Course in Miracles. Crisis comes bearing its solution in that it takes us to our knees, the most humble of thinking. If we had been there to begin with, if we had placed the power of God before our own, putting love before all personal ambitions, then our problems would not have been developed. Forgiveness, is the ultimate preventative medicine as well as the greatest healer. A miracle worker's job is not to attack the illness, but rather to simulate the natural forces of healing. Healing doesn't come from a pill, it comes from our belief in love. Life is supposed to be easy, and when it's not, our bodies cry out, dis-ease. It begins small at first, an ache here, a mild discomfort there, but it begins to grow slowly, patiently. Just waiting for you to notice, waiting for you to do something, anything different from how or what you've been doing that caused it to show up in the first place. But you continue to ignore it. You're busy. You have other things to do. Until one day, you can ignore it no longer, and now it is forcing you to stop in the form of cancer or some other debilitating disease. It forces you to stop, to stand still, to take inventory, learn how to overcome whatever obstacle this is, and how to discover your purpose. Failure to stop, failure to do so could result in death, or at the very least, a long life of pain and suffering. Now, some people may say that my words are too harsh, too shocking, but I think they need to be. From my own experience and from what I see in the world, there are far too many people who are on the road to killing themselves, either in the form of suicide or by making themselves sick. If we make ourselves sick, we can think, I didn't do this to myself, it happened to me. Sometimes truth is uglier than a lie. But the good news is that love never fails. It is patient, it is kind. Love bears all things, believes in all things, hopes all things, endures all things. 1 Corinthians 13. The simple yet complex cure to all of our illnesses is love. Life is meant to be easy, but when it is not, our bodies cry out, dis-ease. But it's up to us to hear the message. We can do this by stopping what we're currently doing, which is ignoring our authentic selves, or in our worst case scenario, participating in self-loathing. We can overcome these obstacles by discovering our purpose, by returning to love. So that was the post I was going to write this morning without any preference, but because I did reference to something that occurred within a community, I felt an obligation to kind of do a disclaimer before I did my post. In addition to the disclaimer, I want to talk about the sensitive issue of suicide. So here's what I believe. A lot of times when we hear the word suicide, we think, okay, go get help. And sometimes, many times people do, sometimes they don't. What I believe as a modern day spirit guide, or whatever you want to call me, is that diseases, whether it's mentally or physically, happen on all levels. It's my personal belief, but I know some people may disagree with me, that all illnesses stem from spirit first. A feeling of disconnection, either from God or from people in general. So to me, the first thing you need to do is to get some spiritual healing. Now, what I've found, and I've actually done not a lot of research on this, but when I was in a nightmare moment in my life, I was actually trying to I actually did try to reach out and find a spiritual healer. and I could not find one within the community. So that's kind of what my role is to help people spiritually. But maybe you have a church that helps you spiritually, or another community. So please turn to them. If you don't have them, then please look at my services. I will post my number and how to contact me and set up an appointment below. In addition to seeking spiritual healing, this is the part that most people will do, or they get information that they should do. Yes, you need to contact a professional who knows how to handle this, that this is their job, like a counselor. So I will be putting the suicide prevention number below my video as well. Also, if you have insurance, contact your health insurance. They can hook you up with somebody. My friend also mentioned another good idea that I didn't think about, which is sometimes thoughts of suicide, especially if they come rapidly, kind of out of nowhere. And even if they don't come rapidly out of nowhere, I think this is good advice. Get a physician's checkup first, because sometimes I've heard that something could be happening in the brain, a tumor or something like that, that's causing this person to think and to feel this way when they've never felt that way before. So to me, in order to get true healing for this, I believe people need not just help on the emotional level through a counselor, but they should also seek physical, from a doctor, and spiritual healing. And I think if we have all three of these things in place, we would have more success. If you are actually thinking about suicide, I want you to remember something that I've actually told my students that I teach. I want you to remember there is always at least one person, and probably many, and many you might not know, because, for example, when I went through cancer, people's concern for me, people that I never even thought said hi to or anything like that, came out of the woodwork. So there's at least someone, but probably many people, who actually care about you if you reach out and try to get that help. Even in the dark, keep looking for the light, for inspiration. And for those of you who know someone who suffers from depression, illuminate and inspire them with anything that you find, and who knows, you might be the illumination that they need. I have one closing thought, and that is for the survivors who are left behind. I now know 2 people who've been affected by this, or 2 families, or 2 situations. And I think my friend, Reverend Lisa Adams Sherry, the interim minister of Unitarian Universalist Church in Elgin, said it best. Most who commit suicide do not wish to hurt the people that they've left behind. It is the illness that caused the act, not necessarily the person. And it is natural to think, this is something that we heard people saying, is there something more I could have done? Even my own husband and I were thinking of that in the car ride to the church yesterday. Acknowledge that feeling. You can't ignore it. If you push it down, it's just going to act like that disease. It's going to start off minor and it will grow. So you do need to acknowledge that. You need to share it with other people that you can trust. And then you need to tell yourself you really did everything that you could do. You need to forgive yourself. And better yet, you need to realize there's nothing even to forgive. Okay? Forgive the person who left you behind. Surround yourself with love and with support. Take each moment. I'm going to get emotional here because it's not easy. Take each moment one step in front of the other. Lean on others. When you need to, they will carry you. I know because I've experienced such compassion. I can't promise. I can't promise. I'll get through this. I can't promise that the pain will never go away. But I can promise that people will always be there with you and for you on your journey. They will walk next to you. They will carry you until you finally at least come to the place where you can make peace with your pain. And I'm not going to lie, this isn't going to be a one-time thing. A lot of times I wrote about in the past these things called pilot lights. So there was one time in my life I was extremely angry over a situation, and a year went by, and I wondered if I was ever going to get rid of this anger. And eventually I took one step in front of the other, making peace. The anger pretty much went away, but I've found in my life that there are times where I will be triggered. And so kind of like a pilot light in the house, when it gets too cold, that signals that mechanism inside to light everything up, that'll happen, okay? And so every time that pilot light gets lit, you have to walk through the process again. And I'm not going to lie, the first time you do this process, it'll take a long time. You might not even want to do it, and it'll be hard. But the more you practice the process, the more you'll want to do it, the easier it will get, and the quicker the results that will happen. So it is that promise, or that process. The process is acknowledge your feeling. Feel it. Let it out. Even if that means you have to scream, yell, cry. If you're like me, you like to do it alone. But if you have someone in your life that you can trust, sometimes that actually really helps. You know, maybe you want to find that one person who it's like, I need to do some shadow work with you. Would you mind? That's kind of what I do, is if you don't have that person. Or if this is something else I've found too, sometimes the people who are the closest to you can't handle your shadows. And so you need a third party. Someone like myself who you can trust, but isn't so close to you that I can't handle whatever it is that you give to me. So basically what I do is I walk into your shadows with you, and then I help you get out on the other side. Now, if you have someone in your life who can do that, that's great. But I've also found for myself, I can't handle that sometimes. If someone's shadow is a little bit darker than I'm ready for and I'm really close to. So I do sometimes suggest, if you're able to, find someone else to do that with you. So what you do is you acknowledge it, you scream about it, you yell about it, you whatever. And then when you're done, you ask yourself, you get in a really quiet space. Most of the time you're exhausted anyway. And just from seeing people who go through that emotional process, I can tell you it'll last about 30 to 45 minutes. Okay? And at the end of that 30 to 45 minutes, you're going to be exhausted. So you'll be in a quiet place anyway. Now, maybe I'm weird, but it's okay. Most people know I'm weird anyway. When I get emotionally distressed, I actually go in a closet. And I think the reason why I do this is because the darkness and the quiet. And that's really what you need, because what you really need once you explode is you need to go inside yourself and you need to ask yourself, what do you need to heal? And if you get quiet and if you listen, your body will tell you. So that's my topic today. If you have any questions, please private email me or anything like that. And until tomorrow, may peace and blessing find you.
When people keep repeating that you'll never fall in love, when everybody keeps retreating, but you can't seem to get enough. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door to your heart. Let my love open the door. When everything feels all over, everybody seems unkind, I'll give you a 4-leaf clover. Take all worry out of your mind. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door to your heart. 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 Let my love open the door. 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 When tragedy befalls you, don't let it drag you down. Love can't kill your problem. You're so lucky I'm around. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door. Let my love open the door to your heart. your heart.